Although still waiting for its completion, Chris Finwood and his ODU Monarchs will be playing in a home stadium this season. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode brought to you by Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work. That defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. All right, continuing our 2026 preview of the Sunbelt baseball season 2 weeks from this past Friday. All right, so it is coming up very quickly. We've already done 3 previews. We got Chris Finwood today. We should have 4 more, if not 5, over the next week or so, and then we'll see what happens after that. So we've got almost 9 out of the 14. So that's pretty good. All right, so let's get to Chris Finwood and the ODU Monarchs. Last year, they had to play a road game every time. They had to put the equipment on the bus, and that does not make it very comfortable for guys to be playing home games. This year, although the stadium is not completely done due to weather delays, they will be playing in their own ballpark every day for home games. So that is on the plus side. Also, as much as you can tell recruits that the stadium's coming, now the stadium's here. And you can see that must be easier for recruits and transfer portal. All right, so we talked to them about that. We talked to them about how they handle the transfer portal, as well as NIL, and of course, who's going to be playing this year for the ODU Monarchs, and how you can compete in a conference where, if you're in the top half, you got a shot at the NCAA tournament, and Coastal Carolina has raised that bar for everybody. All right, let's get to it. He is the head coach of the ODU Monarchs. He is Chris Finwood, and he is Locked On Sunbelt. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Continuing our 2026 Sunbelt baseball preview with the head coach of the Old Dominion Monarchs. He is Chris Finwood. Chris, thanks very much for hopping on. Going to start off with it's the obvious question with ODU baseball. You guys did not have a home stadium last year. What was that like playing in a different facility throughout the season? And update us on the upcoming season with the new stadium not quite being done.
Sure. Yeah. Good to be here with you, Dave, and Happy New Year to everybody. Last year was a unique experience. We knew we were, going to have to go through this with the stadium not being available to play in. And it was, you never really know what you're getting into until you have to go through it. And the cumulative effect of it was difficult, always having to put your guys, your staff, your equipment on the bus for every single game. Right. You never just walk out of your locker room and walk out to your field. Those kind of things. We've been in a temporary office and locker room area for over a year now, and so things like that. Having said that, the guys were, and the fact remains you win more at home. That's why people play home games whenever they can. The guys were awesome. I mean, we, for playing every game on the road, we still did really well academically. I think we had a 3.3 team GPA. I felt like we were competitive. You never win as much as you want to, but playing at series at Auburn, at Georgia Tech. And then open up league play at Southern Miss. I mean, those were some challenges right off the bat. We played pretty well in the conference portion of the schedule, better. I think our difficult preseason schedule helped prepare us for that. And again, we went 15-15 again. So we're trying to get on the right side of that. But the good news is we haven't been on the wrong side of it either, and so we just got to take a couple steps forward. We finished 6th in the league, and it's a tough league. I mean, those 5 teams in front of us were all pretty good. So it won the first game against Troy in the conference tournament, and then got beat by Southern Miss and Troy. So it was a challenging year. It was a year of learning, I think, and we're looking forward to this year. In regards to the stadium, it won't be done in terms of the amenities of the fans, but the field portion of it is normal. We've got a little bit less foul territory right now between the dugouts and home plate because of a temporary backstop we had to construct until they get the press box done where we can put up the regular net, which isn't too far away. That's coming. But we played all fall with that. It doesn't affect the game at all. The field
helps out the hitters a little bit.
A little less. It's really probably about 10 feet, maybe at the most. So it's not a big change. We don't have a ton of foul territory anywhere in our ballpark, especially down the lines, because we moved the fences like towards the field. In terms of the stadium part of it, we are actually going to be building, and it starts next week. The company that does this is kind of cool. The company, I can't remember their name, but they do the temporary bleachers for the big PGA events. You see those bleachers that are around the greens, Yeah. They're out of Richmond, Virginia. And this company's coming in and building a seating area out beyond our left field, over the top and beyond the left field wall that'll hold about 1,000 people. And that's going to be where the seats are this year. So it's a little unusual. However, it's going to be something that we're going to be able to keep once the stadium's done, which will add to, the overall seating capacity. And also, I think it'll be a cool area for students, things like that. So that's where we're at. The stadium won't be handed over to us until June, substantial completion. So we're seeing it go up as we, every day we're out there at practice right now. Steel's going up, the arches for the, entranceway going up. They're just about done. Everything's under roof, so they're working on the inside things, and then they've got to finish the seating bowl, chair backs, and all that. Still have to be done, press box, things like that. So there's plenty of work to be done. It is what it is. Our people have worked hard on, construction is always delays, right? Our people have worked hard on finding a way for, fans to still be able to come watch us play, and for us to, have a real game. I mean, we have to put in temporary press boxes, things like that. But our administration has really gone above and beyond to make sure that we can have a legitimate Sun Belt Conference baseball game, and that's what we'll have.
Well, I'm always a hashtag, always a bright side kind of guy. And so when, as a coach, you can talk for years about the new baseball stadium coming. It's coming. But if there's delays, now you're like, see, it's actually coming, right?
Yeah.
You probably talked for years that this thing was being built and no earth was being moved. Yeah. And now it's slightly delayed. So now you get to talk about it. It maybe didn't get done when we wanted it to, but boy, it's going to look really good come next season.
Yeah, and the hard part in construction is the underground stuff takes so long to get done, and you just don't see any progress.
Right.
And then all of a sudden stuff starts going up, and you're like, wow, okay. And that's happening, each day right now. So the cool part, I mean, our guys are disappointed it's not going to be done, right? Clearly. However, we rolled on top of that. We talked about that from the get-go. As soon as we knew it, they've gotten over it, and they understand that's life. One cool thing they do get to see is the daily progress of, oh, that's new. Oh, that's new. Oh, that's new. And so that's kind of neat.
Well, that's life too.
Yeah, that's life too. That's right. And we are playing here. Our first 4 weekends are at home. We're not getting on a bus. We're not playing in front of somebody else's fans. Just the ability to play on our field that we practice on every day is going to be really nice.
We're talking with Chris Finwood, the head coach of the Old Dominion Monarchs, Locked on Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so you did mention one thing about that, easier to win at home. The old adage is, in baseball, you play for the tie, you play for the win on the road and the tie at home. A lot of people conflate that to other sports, which it doesn't really matter. In football, you don't get to be the, you don't get to win the coin toss because you're at home, right? So, they can kind of conflate that. You want to go, they use that same thing in football and in basketball, but home should not have anything to do with it. In baseball, it does because you get last ups. So do you coach differently knowing that? Do you believe in that old adage? We go for the win on the road and the tie at home?
I do in some respects, and I think that comes into play more towards the back part of the game than the beginning of it, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's in baseball, you don't have a coin toss. You just get to, you get to, give them the ball first, and then you're going to take it second. And what Earl Weaver said, the great thing about it is, you got to give the other guy his chance in baseball. So everybody gets the even amount of shots, and that's what you hope for.
For example, you may not, like early in the ball game, first and second, nobody out, you may not bunt, right? We're going to play for the big inning. Whereas it's we're down by one, it's 5-4 heading into the ninth inning. We got first and second. We know who's coming up, right? The chances of them, might not be great to hold them to 0 runs. So, right, we're going to take a chance here and not try to bunt the runner over.
Yeah, and that's where some of the, the money ball, the metric stuff. I think you have to marry the stats with your, understanding your team and where you're at and who's coming up, because those same situations, in one of them you may be better off bunting, and another one you may be better off not bunting.
Well, depends who's coming to the plate for you. Yeah.
And so that they're not all equal, I don't think. And I think that's where maybe experience and trusting your guys. And plus the other part is who's coming up. Can the guy bunt?
That's right. That's exactly right.
We practice every day, and I tell them all the time, hey guys, we're watching because we got to know who can get a bunt down. It's not just do we need the bunt? It's can you do it? And so those are important parts of all of it as well.
Let's take a time out. We'll come back and talk more with ODU's Chris Finwood about how the Monarchs use the portal and how you get to mix these guys when they are not all growing together in the same program over 3 or 4 years. How do you get the young kids to mix with the veterans and then those guys who are just coming in through the transfer portal? We'll do that after I tell you about FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for, some more than others. This is where prediction turns into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's a perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And the Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Sunbelt your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live Sunbelt sports every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Sunbelt with no interruptions, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnSunbelt.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's continue with our conversation with ODU's Chris Finwood. We talk about the portal and NIL and how you grow a program where it's not the same guys over a couple of years and how you mix that all together. Talking to Chris Finwood, the head coach of the ODU Monarchs, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day, previewing the 2026 Sunbelt baseball season. All right, how did the transfer portal and how does NIL work for ODU baseball?
Well, it's all a newish process, right? We're only a few years into this.
A little bit fluid these days.
Yeah, it is. I think we've learned some lessons these past few summers in the portal of what we need to be looking for and what needs to stay important to us. We feel like, just judging from watching, the guys on the field, the guys that we got in the portal this year, are going to be able to help us a little bit more than maybe some of the guys we've gotten in the portal, which hasn't been a lot. This will be our biggest portal year, and our university has stepped up. They've allowed us to both fundraise, and they've supplemented that fundraising to get us some rev share money that we could be competitive in the portal. So I think everybody understands, man, Sunbelt, the Sunbelt teams, the teams certainly at the top of the league, and in addition, the teams that haven't been at the top that are trying to get closer to that or there are putting the resources in, and I always tell people, man, the school dictates where the floor of your program is, not the coach. The coach dictates the ceiling. But if the school's not going to give you enough to have a solid foundation, then you got your hands full. You're fighting an uphill battle in a league like this, because there's plenty of good coaches with the resources. And so, we feel like where we have gotten to has gotten us to the middle of the pack area in terms of financially, and we can be competitive. Are we ever going to be at the top where a couple schools are? I don't think so. But that's okay. It's just like our stadium. Our stadium is going to be awesome. It's going to get us right in the middle of the pack of Sunbelt stadiums, and that's fine. We're not at the bottom. We're not going to be at the bottom anymore.
Right.
And it's not going to ever be a negative again. Kid's not going to come here just because their stadium's better, which, do you want that kid anyway? I don't know. But I'm really happy with that. We've got enough. We felt like, our Friday and Saturday starters are going to be portal kids. And a couple of our key relievers, potentially our third baseman. So we've got a good mix of returning on the field, returning hitters and new guys, both junior college and transfer portal. We lost our whole rotation last year. I mean, 2 juniors got drafted, and then a senior, Blake Morgan, got drafted. And so when you're replacing that, we didn't feel like we had what we needed coming back in the program already, so we had to go out and get a few top end arms.
Yeah, I visited. I traveled to the Sunbelt Championship game in football, going to Harrisonburg. So I visited Huntington. Got a guided tour, by the way, in Huntington, West Virginia. And
beautiful ballpark.
Well, that's what it is,
Beautiful.
right? It's not, you're not playing, it's not, Tiger Stadium. It's not what the Cajuns play in. It's not what Southern Miss plays in, but it's nice, it's quaint, and when it's full, it's going to make some noise. And they never had a baseball stadium before. So I think that's the appropriate size for what Marshall needs. Plus, it's probably a little chilly between February and March home games, right? You need to, have that hot chocolate.
When we played there 2 years ago, there might have been 1,500 people there, and it felt like a lot more because they're right on top of you. It's loud. They're into it. They did a good job with their suites and their amenities. Things like that make all the difference in the world.
Yeah. Talking to Chris Finwood, ODU head baseball coach, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Did want to ask you, how do you meld, because it is different these days, instead of just incoming freshmen, you do have the portal guys. So we're gonna call the freshmen, cocky, because they don't know what they don't know yet, but they were really good in high school compared to, the 21 and 22-year-old young men who are just confident, and yet they have to mold themselves into a unit. That's something new that you've had to figure out, because it used to be we just brought in these 18 years old and we slowly brought them along. Maybe one or two were able to contribute right away, but now we got young men who already believe in themselves. And then you got the guys who are already there. How do you do all that mixed together? Because that's different than it had been, when you started.
Yeah, it totally is. And it's an interesting, dynamic time we're in, because you got some catch-22s built in there. Like if a kid comes in and he just isn't playing and it doesn't look like he's behind some older guys, and he looks up and he's like, I need to go play. So then that kid may go in the transfer portal. Right. Conversely, if you got a kid that's outstanding, and it's hard for a true freshman to play and be an everyday starter.
Yeah, sure is.
I think at this level. But if he's able to do that and really is an outlier there, then somebody with a lot more money than us tries to buy him.
Right. Yes.
And so you're battling that.
Right.
And so that's where we're at right now, and it's the unfortunately, it's the landscape, but it's where we're at. And so we got to learn how to deal with it and flourish in it. But it is very difficult, for freshmen. I think some freshman pitchers can contribute a little bit easier because of how many you need and things like that than a freshman hitter these days. The freshmen or the hitters are much older. Not many college hitters. You have to really be an outlier to be drafted as a college hitter now with a 20-round draft. And so a lot of the better college hitters are back for another year. And, you throw in the Pavia stuff where you got all these fifth-year guys that were in junior college. They're back another year. And so, you look up and you got a bunch of 22 and 23-year-olds on the field, and it's hard for an 18-year-old to beat those guys out.
Let's take one more time out. We'll come back and wrap up our conversation with ODU's Chris Finwood. We talk about who's going to be on the mound for the Monarchs, and has he made that decision already with still a couple weeks left to go before the season opens. We'll do that right after I tell you about Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. How about those App State Mountaineers taking down the Troy Trojans? Did not see that one coming in a ball game that was not particularly close. App State taking down Troy 66-44. These remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work off the court, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put that same passion in every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Let's wrap up our conversation with the head coach of the ODU Monarchs, Chris Finwood. Seems to have a pretty good idea who's going to be his weekend starters.
All right, well, we still have, around 3 weeks left to go. Maybe it's 2 by the time this gets going, and you seem like you already have your Friday and Saturday night starters, and that is what I like different about college baseball compared to pro baseball. In pro baseball, the aces don't necessarily match up. It's like opening day, the day after the All-Star break, and the playoffs, and that's it. And you may not even line up then, depending on who wins and who has the off days. But in college baseball, that Friday night starter is always going up against their best. So who do you have lined up as that decision seems to already be made?
Yeah, I think so. And right now, like we mentioned, I think our top two starters now, whether one throws Friday or Saturday, there's a lot of beers that get drunk on that argument, right? Because a lot of guys say, I'm throwing my Friday guy. I want to get that Friday win. Some guys say, I want to be able to use my bullpen Friday and throw my guy that's going to be able to go the longest on Saturday. And so it's every game matters the same. It's not just we've lost plenty of Fridays and came back and won the series. We've won plenty of Fridays and lost the series. So,
right.
But I understand the feeling.
So do you change that? Can you change that on a weekly basis based on off days, or once you make that decision, you sort of stick with it until you do change?
No, you can change it. Yeah, okay. You'd rather push a guy back than up. But it can be changed. You just got to be careful on days off. And in college baseball, it's not like you're on a 4-day rotation or
you're getting that
5. These guys are going
5 or 6
once
days
a week, the starters.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can manage that. But I think our top two guys, right now are Darin Kuskie and JJ Gatti. And Darin's a transfer from USC Upstate. He's a Maryland kid, and JJ's a transfer from University of Dayton. He's a Long Island, New York kid. So they're both big right-handed kids. They can pitch, they compete. They've got a lot of experience. They pitched a lot of Division I college baseball games, and so far they've been fantastic. They've been really good for us, and they've kind of stood out as guys we can point to there. Sunday starter's still up for grabs right now. Which happens in a lot of college programs.
Well, it really does. Yeah. That's not a
guys, yeah. We got 3 more sets of inter squads to go, and we're hopeful that some guys will step up and somebody will grab that. And that's what the first 4 weeks of the season are about. Until you get into conference play, that fifth weekend. You're using those first 4 weeks as the games count, but it's more about figuring out who can do what, both in the pitching staff and the roles there, and then also in your lineup.
Yeah, if you keep the same Sunday pitcher all season long, you've been in good shape. Let's just put it that way.
We were able to do that last year, which was kind of amazing.
Yeah.
All three of our guys stayed the same the whole year, so that was really a neat thing, and like you said, very rare.
Yeah, I can go back to LSU. The reason LSU wasn't winning national championships is because they couldn't figure out their Sunday pitcher. Now all of a sudden they've won a couple, so they have that that pitching depth, and so it's not unique to G5 programs.
Right.
As we're talking with Chris Finwood, out of ODU, the Monarchs baseball coach, as we're on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, who's the third baseman? Give us some hitters that are going to contribute this year to the Monarchs' success.
Yeah, third baseman's a fifth-year kid who's a Division II transfer named Cash J. Who's a very talented kid. He's a good defender. He's got some
What's
power.
His name? What'd you say his name is?
Hey, great name, Cash J.
CASS?
Cash, like money.
Yeah. Oh, Cash. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Cash
all right.
J. So great name, right? And then shortstop is a junior college transfer,
right?
Who's a Texas kid named Will Johnson. So our left side's new, and they've been great, man. Defensively, we definitely have feel good about our defense there. Second base is a fifth-year senior, Maverick Stallings. We got some great names now. Maverick Stallings,
love that.
Like should be in Top Gun, right? Who's a third-year junior college guy. He's led us in home runs the last 2 years. He's a really good player. And then first base is a senior, junior college kid, second year starting, left kid named Zach Late, who led us in hitting last year. So the infield is old, Catcher is a portal. We got two older catchers. One is a transfer portal kid from North Carolina. Another great name, Mac Dye. McCadden Dye. Yeah, we'll be fun for announcers this year.
We love that stuff. Yeah.
And then the outfield's all older kids that have been here. So, it's an older group on the field for sure.
You got to get Maverick to go visit the Troy quarterback, because his name is Goose Crowder, and coach, I'm not kidding you, his nickname is after Goose in the movie.
I love it. I love it. That is great.
All right, a few more questions for head coach Chris Finwood out of ODU, the Monarchs head baseball coach. All right, how do we compete? How do you move up? Like you said, 15-15. I think you finished sixth in the conference, and the top of it is top heavy, right? You got Coastal Carolina, who played for the national championship, which I think not only everybody in the Sun Belt was rooting for, but all those G5 schools, right? Despite what LSU fans would tell you, they were right there. They had a shot in both those ball games. LSU came up with the clutch base hits, and Coastal did not, but they were right there. Southern Miss hosted a regional, right? They're still upset, or at least I am, that they lost to Columbia, preventing them from getting into a super regional, but they're right there. Troy always seems to be right there, but seems to falter at the end, preventing them from getting an NCAA tournament. And, we'll see if the Cajuns and Texas State can compete. So this is kind of like the SEC, where, you got to go through this gauntlet. And so when you see these teams and you try to, line up ODU against them, do you find out what you need to be able to take it to the next level? And how do you go about finding those players?
Yeah, it's you got to try to keep from getting swept, for one. And we were able to do that last year up until the last series against Coastal. And we lost the extra inning game on Friday, and then they beat us up pretty good the next 2 days. But that's important, because those are big swings, right? You get swept, you sweep somebody, those are 3-game swings instead of one when you win a series or lose a series. And then you have to play well on the road. Obviously, last year, every game was on the road for us, and you got to win your home series. So, and some of it comes down to who you miss in the, because you don't play everybody in the Sun Belt. So you're missing a couple of those teams on the west side. And this year we don't play Louisiana, and we don't play Texas State. And so, those are two that we do miss, and so that can change some things too. Like, obviously, if you're on the west and you're not playing Coastal. That's nice, right? I think that's
depending on your point of view, because the fans want to see Southern Miss play Coastal Carolina. I don't know how much those teams want to play each other.
Yeah,
but
I was just going to mention that. I remember, in the conference tournament, them bringing that up a number of times, how those guys didn't play each other. And I guess we certainly want to play the best teams and see where you're at.
But I understand what you're saying as well. Yeah.
And so, some of that comes down to the imbalance of the schedule. And they don't know that. They're basing it on past year RPIs and things of that nature. So, and you just got to be consistent. Like a little bit of luck comes in, who gets hurt, who doesn't get hurt, who stays healthy, and who kind of comes on towards the end of the season. So that's a big part of all of it.
All right, let's wrap it up here with Chris Finwood, head coach, ODU Monarchs, baseball coach. You've been doing this a while now. Still having fun?
Yeah, 37th year.
37th year.
Yeah.
You don't look a day over the city's 36th year.
Well, I just turned 60 on Tuesday. So,
no way. If you shaved, you would not look 45. You don't have the wrinkles. You look like you got a little bit of sun. You got some rosy cheeks going on there.
Yeah, that's the sun and the wind out here this time of the year. But we got a beautiful day today. It's going to be 60 degrees, and we got a scrimmage lined up. So, we'll get ahead of some of that colder weather this weekend. Love it. 15th year here at ODU. Really excited about the new stadium. That's a big shot in the arm for everybody in the program, and just grateful, man. My dad used to say, what if you just woke up tomorrow with all the things you're grateful for today? What would you have? So I'm always grateful for getting to do something I love and getting a paycheck for it and getting to affect and help these young men, as they get on their journeys. So I'll be a granddad in about a month, so that's exciting. And so I'm fired up. This 26 is off to a great start.
So are we going to miss a day of games because we got to go visit the grandchild? Or
potentially, yeah, they're down in Florida, so
okay,
we got to work that out. Yeah.
All right. Well, that you know what? That's an excused absence. I'm going to give you that excused absence. All right. Yeah. That's okay. All right. Everyone is going to.
They'll probably be better off without me, so I'll let them run the show there.
Everyone will understand that one. It is Chris Finwood, head coach of the ODU Monarchs baseball team. Really appreciate your time, Coach. Thanks for hopping on again. Best of luck, and hopefully we'll catch up sometime this season. Thank you so much.
Okay, Dave. Thank you. Great to see you.